So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Transformer Prime. So let's start the series. A young boy with bright blonde hair and lifeless blue eyes traversed the dark woods of the ominously named Forest of Death, clad in tattered blue shorts, a ruined red shirt, and worn-out shoes. While most would find it peculiar for a boy scarcely 6 years old to wander such a place, this boy was unique. He was known by various names, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze to those unfamiliar with his familial background, simply Naruto to a select few who did, though they predominantly referred to him as Demon, the object of the village's disdain. Why is my family and this village populated by such imbeciles? This marks the 6th instance this week that those fools disregard me in favor of my pampered siblings, a collection of morons, Naruto exclaimed in exasperation at the utter foolishness of the people and his family. As he ventured farther into the forest, Naruto failed to observe his surroundings and stumbled over an object, falling onto the grass. He knelt, cradling his face, and said, "What the heck was that?" Turning to examine the object he had tripped over, he blinked in astonishment. What he initially perceived as a rock was, in fact, a silver object that appeared to be interred in the soil. "What is this?" Naruto inquired, then employed his hands to excavate the object from the dirt and bring it to the surface. As he persisted in excavating, he discerned that he was nearing the revelation of the peculiar object. Upon completing his excavation, he beheld the item that had caused his stumble, eliciting a reaction of astonishment and wonder. In his grasp was a bronze sphere encasing a blue crystal. The orb was encircled by a band of silvery metal, fractured at the 1, 5, 7, and 11 o'clock positions. The smaller segments at the top and bottom of the circle were affixed to the sphere by vertical bars, while the larger segments on the right and left sides were connected to the central piece by diagonal beams at their termini. Remarkably, despite being buried in the soil, it appeared pristine. He can still perceive his reflection within the crystals. He had to admire their coolness, as they resembled something from the future. A thought occurred to him: what was it doing here? What is the rationale for its burial at this location? He nonchalantly elevated his shoulders. As the adage goes, finders keepers. He exclaimed joyfully upon acquiring something novel and impressive. He elevated it to his gaze to examine the object he had discovered, entirely oblivious to the extraordinary event that was about to unfold. When the light of the willing and pure of heart coincided with the crystals, it would irrevocably alter his existence. As Naruto sensed an unusual object beckoning him to gaze directly at the crystals, he grasped the two handles and gradually pulled them apart, astonished by the beauty contained within the bizarre device. "Wow!" Naruto exclaimed, momentarily immobilized as if entranced. It felt as though he had been struck by lightning. His eyes began to radiate a lighter hue of blue, coinciding with the peculiar object. A mini-earthquake emanated from the vicinity of Naruto, as the ground appeared to shift and mechanical sounds reverberated from it. Silence enveloped the surroundings as Naruto lost consciousness, a fleeting blue light appearing in the sky before vanishing almost immediately. Naruto's mental landscape. Naruto gasped in pain, laboring to open his eyes as he acclimated to his surroundings. At that moment, he was adrift in an expansive void, encircled by glimmering blue and white lights. This environment felt familiar, as he had experienced it previously. He then recalled a brief memory of receiving a message from Alpha Trion while brandishing the Star Saber. He pondered the identity of Alpha Trion and the significance of the Star Saber. As he surveyed the magnificent scene around him, Naruto recognized his solitude and sighed. Rising to his feet, he surveyed his surroundings and murmured, "So," as he closed his eyes in resignation to his fate. "Is it my destiny to be solitary in this unfamiliar place? Yet, why does it evoke such a sense of familiarity? Not yet, young one, for the universe still requires your bravery." Naruto scanned his surroundings in pursuit of the voice's source when a cybertronian figure emerged from the mist. Although unfamiliar, Naruto identified him from a distant memory. "You are Vector Prime, the guardian of time and space, and one of the 13 original primes." The primordial entity referred to as Vector Prime inclined his head, his visage obscured by a facial covering. "It seems that our guest has finally roused." Naruto's eyes widened in astonishment. He recognized the voice from a distant past, belonging to the entity that had imparted significant knowledge during his tenure as a records clerk in the Iacon Hall of Records. Alpha Trion. The cybertronian materialized before Naruto, his appearance scarcely altered from eons past. "Greetings, Naruto, or should I say Optimus. It has been a considerable duration." For the first time in many eons, Naruto, or Optimus, expressed a smile of joy and relief as he beheld his former mentor. "It brings me immense happiness to see you once more, old friend." Naruto's smile then shifted into a questioning yet resolute frown. "Wait a moment, why are you addressing me as Optimus, and why have I been brought to this location? Furthermore, how are you still alive? I was under the impression that you had perished during the final days of the Cybertron War, and how do I possess this knowledge?" Alpha Trion appeared astonished by Naruto's reaction, expressing regret as he replied, "We are within the matrix of leadership that you discovered in the forest. I referred to you as Optimus because you are his reincarnation, young one. We have brought you here because we have observed your life and the manner in which your family has treated you. I must express my disappointment in their treatment of you, as if you were merely a nuisance. However, the reason for your summoning is to inform you that many individuals are in grave danger." Naruto's eyes widened in trepidation at his mentor's statement. "What do you mean?" Alpha Trion observed Vector Prime as he commenced his discourse. "Throughout my journeys in the universal time stream, I uncovered the existence of new worlds parallel to our own, known as the Elemental Nations. However, young one, there are others that, while somewhat akin to you, are also markedly distinct, Optimus. Previously, when you were identified as Optimus Prime, you utilized a weapon known as the Star Saber to obliterate the ground bridge controls on Earth. The combined energy of the Matrix and the weaponry of the Decepticon warship generated an energy portal that has transported you to one of these dimensions, specifically the one we currently inhabit." Naruto shook his head in bewilderment and incredulity. "I still do not comprehend. How is it possible for me to be another individual when I possess no recollection of it? How can I ascertain the veracity of your claims?" Alpha Trion's demeanor shifted to one of severity as he commenced his narrative, stating, "It appears that you have lost your memories upon your arrival here and subsequent rebirth. However, trust our words, young one, we speak the truth. You must recognize the existence of entities known as the Bijou and their vessels, referred to as Jinchuriki. An organization is gradually emerging, intent on hunting them down, which will soon become embroiled in a conflict that threatens every living being on this planet, and potentially those on other worlds as well. Furthermore, with the escalating Decepticon activity on this planet, the onset of another conflict of this magnitude would undoubtedly precipitate the extinction of humanity. However, it appears that the Jinchuriki are poorly treated in their villages, rendering them outcasts and leading to emotional and mental instability, thereby making them targets for this organization. Neither side recognizes that this conflict could potentially disrupt the fundamental fabric of time and reality, resulting in a far greater scale of destruction throughout the cosmos. Therefore, to avert this situation, we recognized only one factor capable of influencing this conflict: the power and wisdom of a prime. Naruto no Optimus had received extensive training under Alpha Trion's mentorship to recognize the gravity of the situation. Should such a conflict arise, innumerable innocent lives would be jeopardized. Despite his yearning to reunite with his fellow Autobots and persist in their struggle against Megatron's oppression, Optimus understood that he could not disregard the suffering of others when his assistance was required. Moreover, he was assured that his squad would persist in the struggle in his absence, effectively repelling the Decepticons and, ideally, rejuvenating Cybertron. "I comprehend." Naruto then formed a fist and raised it to his breast. "I pledge, with all my fervor, to do everything within my power to resolve this conflict." Alpha Trion permitted a slight smile to appear, stating, "I anticipated your response, my student. However, be assured that you will not embark on your journey without support." Alpha Trion turned his head towards his right shoulder as several objects materialized before the young Prime. Naruto narrowed his eyes in an attempt to discern the objects, only to widen them in astonishment as he recognized the tools that had now fully manifested before him. "Those are," Alpha Trion affirmed, "these are among the most ancient and potent relics of cybertronian history, initially utilized by the original primes in their conflict with Unicron. These will be some of the instruments available to you in your mission to establish peace in the elemental nation." Naruto could merely nod while scrutinizing the relics before him, some of which he readily identified from his past as an archivist in the Iacon Hall of Records. Among these were the Star Saber of Prima, the Polarity Gauntlet, and a refurbished iteration of the Force Shield Generator, the latter having been destroyed by Bulkhead months prior. His gaze then concentrated on three of the other artifacts before him. "Are those?" Vector Sigma acknowledged, "Three of the most esteemed artifacts of the primes, the Fire Saber, the Solus Energon Restoration Gauntlet, and the Cyclone Lance of Solus Prime." Naruto observed the relics with reverence and admiration. It was through these formidable weapons that the original primes vanquished Unicron. After the God of Chaos's defeat, all three relics were allegedly cast into the distant expanses of space to prevent them from being acquired by Unicron's remaining minions. Had Megatron acquired such power, the outcome for all Cybertronians would have been disastrous. His attention then shifted to the final three artifacts, each simultaneously recognizable and unfamiliar: an enhanced iteration of the Energon battle axe he had previously wielded in combat, a golden-red chest piece akin to the Apex armor, and what seemed to be an advanced version of the Resonance Blaster. Alpha Trion observed Naruto/Optimus' demeanor about the objects before him, stating, "After the conclusive conflict for Cybertron, I took the initiative to acquire and enhance several prototype artifacts prior to my own departure from Cybertron." Naruto observed his former mentor gesturing to each relic, all of which radiated as he elaborated on their lineage. "To begin with, your battle axe is now more energy efficient in combat. Consequently, you no longer need to endure a prolonged recharge period." Alpha Trion gestured towards the chest piece and stated, "This is the Solus Battle Armor, originally utilized by Solus Prime during the conflict with Unicron. Once equipped, the wearer can summon various forms of combat equipment, whether flight technology or armor enhancements, if necessary. I trust you are already acquainted with its successor." Naruto nodded in somber recollection. The Apex armor, which he had observed firsthand, was one of the most formidable pieces of combat technology ever created during the Great War. Although it was likely a scaled-down variant of the Solus battle armor, it remained a significant threat in close-quarters combat situations. Alpha Trion gestured towards the last artifact. You are undoubtedly familiar with the historical context surrounding the creation of the sonic distortion cannon. Naruto recalled the teachings and archives from his previous existence, particularly his analysis during his tenure as an archivist at the Iacon Hall of Records, which included information about the Iacon Technological Development Institute. Although the Decepticons were the first to successfully create a weapon that utilized sonic waves for military applications, the Autobots had initiated their own program for sonic distortion technology. Consequently, one could argue that the sonic distortion cannon served as the Autobot precursor to the design specifications of the Decepticon Resonance Blaster. While the Decepticons concentrated on developing military hardware, the fundamental Autobot design was primarily intended for civilian scientific research. The design specifications for the SDC were officially obliterated by Autobot scientists to avert their acquisition by the Decepticons. However, the defection of the majority of the project's lead scientists to Megatron's faction rendered these precautions futile. Recovered documents indicate that the initial prototype was recorded as having been destroyed in the early months of the war. Similarly, assertions were made regarding the spark extractor and the alleged demise of Silas and Mech. Vector Prime cautioned, a word of warning, young Naruto/Optimus, these artifacts are among Cybertron's most esteemed weaponry and should not be employed for trivial matters. If they were to be misappropriated, they could unleash unparalleled devastation across the multiverse. Naruto acquiesced, stating, I comprehend, I shall employ them solely when all other avenues of reasoning and negotiation have been exhausted. Vector Prime appeared to ease as he observed the younger Prime. There remains one final issue to address. Do you still hold the key to Vector Sigma? Naruto's eyes widened in astonishment as he summoned the most esteemed relic ever crafted by Solus Prime. The artifact radiated brilliantly as Vector Prime drew it towards him. The Guardian of Time then commenced the transfer of mystical energy into the artifact, gradually altering and reprogramming its function. Upon completion of the transformation, the key was returned to Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, or rather, Optimus Prime, who painfully extended his hand to reclaim the artifact. Upon contacting the key, a brilliant flash of light enveloped his body, as the key appeared to mend all his wounds and burns. When the light dissipated, Alpha Trion conjured a mirror reflecting a cybertronian figure, allowing Naruto to examine his body, which left him utterly astonished by the sight. Am I a cybertronian? A large cybertronian robot was gazing back at him. For a visual reference, consult the cover depicting Optimus Prime to understand how Naruto transforms. Staring back at him was a formidable and noble leader of the Autobots, the last of the Primes, who would never relent in the face of evil and consistently discovers a path to victory, illuminating their darkest hour. He was captivated by the leader's appearance, exclaiming, "Wow!" Subsequently, he transformed back into a human, not as a youthful boy but as a young man, approximately in his early 20s. His once yellow blonde hair had transitioned to ear-length brown hair with blue streaks. The whisker marks that adorned his cheeks had vanished, leaving him moderately clean-shaven with clear blue eyes and radiant white teeth. Most of his outer armor remained unchanged, featuring a blend of blue and red on his torso and shoulder pads. Additionally, his helmet retained its previous functionality, serving as a mouthguard during combat and functioning as a close-range sensor unit capable of detecting objects and individuals within his vicinity. Both shoulder pads and the central chest plate displayed the dark gray Autobot insignia. The key will enable you to transition between your cybertronian and human forms to a standard organic structure resembling the local population, and vice versa. Additionally, the key can store and contain artifacts as particle energy, allowing for their secure retention until needed. Indeed, Naruto/Optimus observed that all the artifacts had vanished, presumably secured within the key to Vector Sigma, yet another instance of the fusion of cybertronian mystical energy in science. Alpha Trion's optics appeared to glimmer as he resumed from Vector Prime's previous statement. In this manner, you need not concern yourself with transporting them during your mission in the elemental nations. We would not want you to falter in the midst of combat under such a substantial load. Naruto/Optimus could not suppress a chuckle at his old master's joke. Even in the most distressing circumstances, the master archivist was renowned for his clever remarks and light-hearted humor. The moment has arrived, Vector Prime proclaimed as he and Alpha Trion elevated their hands, harnessing ethereal energy from the enveloping mist. Concurrently, 10 additional figures emerged from the haze, encircling the now human Naruto/Optimus. All 12 individuals soon amassed a formidable quantity of energy, their forms illuminated against the aura mist as they commenced their incantations. Behold, young Naruto/Optimus Prime, for a new journey awaits you. A new war is imminent, one that will profoundly impact both the heavens and this planet. You must halt the rising aggression before all of humanity is annihilated. Do you accept this responsibility and pledge to fulfill your role as the guardian of humanity and Cybertron? Naruto contemplated his new beginning as Optimus Prime, aspiring to transform his life. He had neither uncertainty nor regret as he declared, "I will, and I wish to be addressed by my former name." They both grinned, acknowledging Optimus Prime's return. "Then proceed, Optimus, and may Primus assist you in your endeavor to illuminate this dark hour." Optimus closed his eyes as he sensed the power of the primes enveloping him. Soon, the accumulated aura energy began to encircle the newly resurrected prime, creating a space bridge portal back to the elemental nations. The energy drew Optimus forward until, with a brief flash of light and energy, the portal engulfed the young prime. As the energy diminished, the 12 entities commenced their dissolution into the mist. Their mission was now accomplished, and it was hoped that the young prime would eradicate this new malevolence from the world permanently. Eventually, only Alpha Trion remained, his aged optics fixed on the slip-space portal through which his former student had departed to the elemental nations. Although he harbored concerns regarding the intentions of the former Konoha shinobi Madara Uchiha for the shinobi lands, he remained confident that Optimus would ultimately effect the necessary change. "Good luck, Optimus," Alpha Trion whispered to himself before departing from this realm. He still had a more significant role to fulfill in this fight, which would hopefully secure a new friend for the Autobots on Earth. Until all are unified. Upon opening his eyes, Optimus realized he was in the Forest of Death, where he had discovered the matrix of leadership. He encountered his former mentor, Alpha Trion, and witnessed the reawakening of Vector Prime, which reinstated him as Optimus Prime. He groaned, shaking his head to dispel the fog clouding his vision. Rising to one knee, he activated his helmet's auto-repair system. It would be futile to be incapacitated before commencing his mission, especially if he were to engage in an unforeseen firefight. He then scrutinized his new human form, still astonished by his mentor's extraordinary transformation capabilities. While his face and forearms were exposed, his red and blue armor enveloped the majority of his body. After confirming his integrity, Optimus commenced an examination of the surrounding terrain. To his astonishment, he discovered that the space bridge portal had transported him near the entrance of the Forest of Death, facilitating his return to the village for his mission. Prior to exiting the forest, he cast a genjutsu on himself to revert to his former appearance before his transformation. As he gradually emerged from the Forest of Death, Naruto/Optimus contemplated his so-called home but paused, recalling the necessity of acquiring proficiency in ninja arts for survival, as he could no longer rely solely on his transformation. Optimus contemplated the situation. He required a jutsu that would enable him to acquire the necessary knowledge while simultaneously performing multiple tasks. The only technique that came to mind was the Shadow Clone Jutsu, which was reserved for high-ranking jounin. He decided to search the library or the Forbidden Scroll, hoping to find a suitable alternative in the library, as he was reluctant to resort to stealing the Forbidden Scroll to learn that jutsu. Thus, he proceeded to the library. In the library, "Excuse me, miss, could you please inform me where the ninjutsu section is located?" "Excuse me," inquired Optimus. "Yes, it is the last shelf on the right," replied the woman, engrossed in her book. "Thank you," said Optimus as he approached the shelf. "Let's see, here it is, the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, or Shadow Clone Jutsu." He sat down and began to read and study it to commit it to memory. "I believe I comprehend it now. I need to acquire 5 scrolls, each representing a different element, to create my own ninjutsu," thought Optimus as he gathered the necessary scrolls and returned to the table. "Excuse me, could you direct me to the taijutsu section?" inquired the Optimus. "Yes, it is the first shelf to the left," she replied without diverting her gaze from the book. "Thank you," said the Optimus as he approached the section. "Let me see, I need to reconstruct my old fighting technique, one that has never been witnessed, so that I can conclude the battle swiftly." Optimus contemplated as he perused the scrolls, discovering one at the back, obscured by dust. He retrieved it, noting its title, Yudhakala. "This appears promising, perhaps it will prove beneficial. I have gathered all necessary materials from the library. Now, I must acquire weights and supplies before departing," he mused. Subsequently, Optimus created shadow clones to transport the scrolls to his residence, where they would consolidate the contents into a single scroll and replicate all his family's jutsu from the family library. Shortly thereafter, Optimus dispelled the genjutsu he had cast upon himself, recognizing that children are unable to purchase ninja supplies. Upon entering the Wolf Claw, he observed the absence of customers and surmised they must be in the rear. "Hello, is anyone present?" Optimus inquired, pausing momentarily until a voice from the back responded, "Yes, boy, now cease your shouting," uttered a deep voice as the individual emerged to the front, astonished to find Optimus at the entrance. "What is your desire, young man?" inquired the man. Optimus frowned when the guy referred to him as a youngling. His appearance could not possibly suggest such youth. "My name is not boy, it is Optimus Prime." "May I inquire about your name?" questioned Optimus. "What is it that you desire, Optimus?" inquired the man. "I require a complete body weight suit, weight gloves, shoes, and additional supplies," stated Optimus. "May I inquire why you required all this material?" inquired the man. "I require supplies as I embark on a solitary journey, and I seek all the assistance I can obtain," stated Optimus earnestly. "I understand, however, I believe you are entirely unprepared. I must inform you that the gloves and shoes will adequately cover your hands and feet, replied the man. That is acceptable, Optimus responded, allowing a faint smile to emerge on his face. My name is Dustin, without a last name, stated Dustin. Dustin, could you please display the weights? Inquired Optimus. This apparatus increases in weight as you acclimate to it, while this other one requires weight adjustments once you become accustomed, stated Dustin. I will choose the one that becomes heavier with acclimatization, stated Optimus. Good choice. The gloves are available in sizes ranging from 20 to 60. Which one do you prefer? Said Dustin as he placed the weights on a table. I will take 15, said Optimus. Alright, and regarding the shoes, they are similar to the full body weights. Once you acclimate to the weights, they increase in intensity, replied Dustin. Let's see, you need new clothing, he mused, placing his hand on his chin while observing Optimus. He then began to peruse the store, selecting a few items before returning them and proceeding to the stockroom. Upon his return, he presented a stack of clothing to Optimus and stated, "The dressing room is located over there by number 1. Please enter, try these on, and let me know if they suit you or if they are the incorrect size." Optimus nodded and entered the room. Once the door was closed, he examined the clothing for a moment, removed his garments, and gradually began to don the new attire. Upon completion, he gazed at his reflection in the mirror and mused, "Not bad, it resembles my armor somewhat," as he observed his black ANBU trousers, black combat boots, and a modified Jounin/ANBU armor vest equipped with numerous pockets for scrolls. Naruto blinked and noticed the Autobot's insignia on his chest, pondering, how did that come to be? I wonder. It is almost as if it were specifically tailored for me, he remarked while hastily changing back into his previous attire in the dressing room. The man then inquired of Optimus, "Did the clothes fit you, sir?" "Yes, they did," Optimus replied. The man nodded and continued, "Here are 2 weeks' worth of the same model of clothing, with a few pieces in white, blue, and red mixed in for you." Something seems to be missing. "Ah, I have it," he said as he retreated to the back and emerged with an item that caused Optimus's eyes to widen. Dustin remarked, "I believe you may desire some protection from the elements, this should suffice," while presenting a red and white cloak adorned with gold flames at the hem and cuffs. The garment featured a hood designed to cover the top of Optimus's head. Optimus gradually extended his hand towards it, commenting, "It resembles my father's coat, albeit in red and white instead of white." The man said, "Please expedite and ascertain if it is suitable." Optimus donned it and raised the hood, exclaiming, "I cannot believe how perfectly it fits me. Dustin, what can I say? I possess a keen eye for detail. Do you appreciate? I will accept it. What is the cost?" "Inquire with Optimus," Dustin remarked. 14 changes of clothing, the cloak, in addition to 4 first aid kits, ninja wire, 10 sets of shurikens, 10 sets of kunai, and 10 senbons for contingencies, totals $3,245. Optimus began to respond when the man interjected, "Oh, I neglected to mention, observe the flames on your cloak's sleeves," prompting Optimus to examine them. Optimus inquired, "What about them?" Dustin stated, "Within the flames lies a storage seal on each arm. As retrieving weapons from your pouches may consume time that could jeopardize your life, I designed these for rapid access to shurikens and kunais." "You are right-handed, correct?" Optimus nodded, and the guy stated, "Excellent. You should store your kunais in your right sleeve and your shurikens in your left, as follows." He then opened a box of shurikens and placed them on the flames, causing them to disintegrate into smoke, which astonished Optimus. Optimus inquired, "How do I unseal them?" Dustin stated, "Simply direct chakra into your arm at this location, and it will unseal," while he made contact with the forearm of Optimus's arm. Optimus nods and swiftly conceals all 10 boxes of shurikens and kunais in his sleeves before compensating Dustin. "Thank you, Dustin. I should continue visiting this place," said Optimus as he retrieved his wallet and handed Dustin the money. "Optimus, what is your desired starting price for the full body?" inquired Dustin. "I wish to commence those at 50, stated Naruto. "Are you certain?" inquired Dustin. "Indeed, I desire the shoes to commence at 40, stated Optimus. "Understood," replied Dustin as he adjusted the weights according to Optimus's request. "Optimus, I will encapsulate all these items in a scroll," stated Dustin. "Understood," replied Optimus. Dustin then seized the scroll and promptly demonstrated to Optimus the method for sealing the garments, the book on fundamental sealing techniques, and the additional items. Upon completion, he handed the scroll to Optimus. "Thank you," said Optimus as he exited the store and returned to his residence, having first cast a genjutsu on himself. The Namikaze residence. Optimus entered the house, disregarding his family members who appeared to be enjoying themselves without him. He proceeded to his room, where his clones awaited him. "Boss, we have completed the duplication of all the scrolls from the family library and consolidated them into a larger scroll. Additionally, we discovered a Fuinjutsu scroll and a map to Uzushio, your birthright and the ancestral home of your clan." Optimus nodded, expressing gratitude. "Before you all disperse, please write to those who were close to me," he requested. They complied and began composing letters to the few individuals who cared for him. Meanwhile, Optimus sat before a blank sheet of paper, pen in hand, uncertain of how to articulate his thoughts in a letter to his former family. He reflected on the myriad of sentiments they had shared with him throughout the years. "I regret that you are my brother. You are a significant disappointment. Why are you unable to emulate your siblings?" Optimus frowned, experiencing a surge of renewed indignation, but he had to restrain himself. He needed to regain composure, as he could not allow his anger to obscure his judgment. He commenced writing a letter to his former family. Upon completion, he instructed several clones to deliver letters to those whom Optimus cherished. Ensuring no one was outside their rooms, he approached his window and affixed seals to the alarm system, delaying its activation to indicate his departure. He opened the window, casting a final glance at the room, tears welling in his eyes once more, then leaped down and commenced running towards the gate, dispelling the genjutsu. He was aware that the security seals surrounding the house would soon activate, necessitating his swift escape before that occurred. Optimus navigated the village streets without triggering any alarms, tears streaming down his face. There was no turning back. Veering left, he sprinted through the streets, urgently seeking an exit from the village. If discovered, the consequences would be severe. As he departed the village en route to Suna, he was aware of the tenuous treaty with Konoha, which was fraught with tension. Additionally, he could transform to obscure his scent, evading detection by the Nin-Ken. Upon reaching the gates of Konoha, he proceeded towards Suna, hoping to arrive before the security seals activated. In the interim, the Namikaze residence Hikari was seated, engrossed in a book that her godfather had bestowed upon her a few years prior. However, she found herself unable to concentrate, as her thoughts repeatedly drifted to her younger brother, who was absent from dinner. Although Hikari may have appeared aloof to her family, she harbored deep affection for them and would go to great lengths to protect them, including her baby brother, Naruto. Naruto, forgive my coldness, I must apologize for my behavior and perhaps impart some lessons that our parents taught me, she mused. Rising from her bed, she approached her brother's room but paused outside the door, realizing she had never entered Naruto's space before. Upon knocking on the door to ascertain the decor of her brother's room, she received no response and speculated whether he was asleep or perhaps irate. Indeed, he was likely upset. Nevertheless, she was resolute and grasped the doorknob, discovering to her astonishment that it was unlocked. Turning the knob, she pushed the door open and entered the room. Hikari's eyes widened in terror at the sight of her baby brother's room, devoid of life. The walls were stark white, lacking the posters or pictures that adorned her own room and those of Mito and Menma. His bed, positioned against the wall, was meticulously made. In fact, the only furnishings visible were the bed, a dresser, a desk, and a closet in the corner. Furthermore, her baby brother was conspicuously absent. Upon noticing a white envelope on the desk, she felt compelled to contact her parents, as it might contain information regarding her missing baby brother. Approaching the desk, she seized the letter and, upon opening it, extracted the folded piece of paper. As she began to read, her heart felt as though it had been wrenched from her chest, and she experienced a profound sense of shame for herself and her family, which ignited a fury within her, prompting thoughts of imparting a necessary lesson to them. Accompanied by Minato and Kushina. While Kushina and Minato were peacefully asleep, Kushina was abruptly awakened by the activation of the alarm seals within the compound. Both she and Minato swiftly exited their bed and hurried to investigate the source of the disturbance, which originated from Naruto's room. Upon entering, they were confronted by an irate Hikari. Kushina was taken aback by the stark emptiness of the room. The walls were white, the floor immaculate, yet it lacked any semblance of life, an unsettling sight for a 6-year-old space. Hikari thrust a letter into her mother's hands and began to walk away, pausing momentarily to remark, "I hope you're happy with yourself," before returning to her own room. Upon Minato and the others' arrival, they were rendered speechless by the sight of the desolate room. "Kushina," he said. Kushina remained silent, opting instead to gaze at the letter and read it aloud. "To my esteemed former family, I have come to comprehend your sentiments towards me. I do not wish to be a burden, and there are numerous thoughts I wish to express regarding your abandonment and neglect in favor of my siblings. However, I shall not allow my anger to obscure my judgment, as a wise individual has illuminated the path ahead, which would lead to my destruction and plunge me into the shadows of my siblings. Consequently, I have resolved to depart. You may now become the family you desire, free from my perceived burdens and irritations. Farewell, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Namikaze. I hope you relish the remainder of your lives with your favorite children. It would be unwise to seek me, for you will never find me." He raced through the trees near the border of Fire Country and Wind Country, pausing briefly to elude his pursuers. Once he sensed the activation of security seals, indicating imminent pursuit, he transformed into his cybertronian form, channeling chakra into his pedace to leap over the border and several yards beyond. Upon landing, he generated a substantial dust cloud that enveloped him from helm to pedace. As he surveyed the landscape, he was taken aback. he had heard that Wind Country was an expanse of sand stretching for miles. He exhaled deeply, contemplating his next move on foot, but hesitated, considering the potential panic caused by enormous footprints, which only the Akimichi clan could produce. He pondered the implications of their presence in the Wind Country, which could signal impending conflict, a scenario he wished to avoid. Consequently, he searched his memories for the ability to transform into his vehicle mode. However, this posed a significant challenge, as the technology in this world was not sufficiently advanced. As he delved deeper into his recollections, he recalled his time as an archivist, discovering that many cybertronians had concealed their alternate forms. He believes he can unlock alternate forms, envisioning something that would protect his family and stand with pride. As he visualized it, Optimus clearly saw an image of a lion and felt the familiarity of his body transforming. Upon completion, he emitted a powerful roar that shook the ground. Once he ceased roaring, he experienced slight dizziness as his body adjusted to the changes. He now believed he had become a triple changer, a rarity on Cybertron. He noticed he could see more clearly, hear more acutely, and feel the wind passing through his majestic mane. Remembering his mission to assist others and safeguard the planet from the Decepticons and similar threats, he began running towards Suna. As Optimus resumed his run, he spotted the village several miles ahead. It won't be long now, he thought with joy as he advanced towards it. The village coincidentally possessed a young San Jinchuriki. In the Hidden Leaf Village hidden in the leaves, Minato Namikaze commanded his ANBU to locate his son, informing Kakashi and the other Jounin that Naruto had fled, which astonished them. He urged them to expedite their search. The Jounin departed, and Minato prayed for Naruto's safety. Tsum employed her hounds to trace Naruto's scent, only to find it vanished at the border of the Fire Country, where he had disappeared. The hounds began to whimper upon detecting another odor, which evidently instilled fear in them. Tsum observed that this enigmatic scent also began to dissipate. Although she would not concede it, the mysterious aroma caused her to tremble slightly in trepidation. However, the Jounin was aware of one fact: the fragrance in question was associated with Naruto. A short time elapsed before a select few individuals received letters from Naruto, their hearts shattered by the news. None were more affected than young Hinata, who, upon overhearing the conversation while seeking Naruto's presence with Hiruzen, hoped fervently that it was merely a cruel jest directed at her beloved. Unfortunately, after hearing Hiruzen's revelation, she collapsed to the ground in a faint. Upon awakening, she succumbed to tears and embraced Hiruzen, calling out Naruto's name. Once she regained her composure, she informed those who cared for Naruto, eliciting horror, sorrow, and indignation, shock at Naruto's disappearance, sorrow at his abduction, and anger directed at the Namikaze family. Each individual who attended to Naruto received a letter from him detailing the location of his notebooks, in which he chronicled daily happenings and the treatment of his siblings, so necessitating his parents' validation of his assertions. The situation had reached its limit. On the day Hikari, Mito, and Menma attended the academy, Hiruzen approached the estate with a scowl, clutching Naruto's journals and Mito's diaries. He tapped incessantly on the front door, which was opened by a tearful Kushina Uzumaki. "Old man?" Kushina inquired with surprise, "What brings you here?" "Greetings, Kushina," Hiruzen stated in a dispassionate tone, which perplexed and astonished her further. "Here, I present to you these Naruto journals." Hiruzen handed the Naruto journals and Mito's diary to Kushina. As he was ready to depart, he glanced back and advised her to read them, assuring her that she would discover what transpired with Naruto. Kushina opened her daughter's diary and began to read a page, her expression transforming into one of fear as she dropped the book and covered her mouth. Within the diary were the chronicles of Mito and Menma's activities over the years. Her daughter and son were, indeed, a collection of deceitful little miscreants. She felt incredulous, yet it lay before her gaze. The actions attributed to Naruto were actually perpetrated by them, who had been bullying him. Naruto was genuinely a good youngster, he remained naive throughout. Simultaneously with Optimus arrived at the village in the early morning. As he approached, he transformed back into his human form, presented the necessary paperwork to the guards, and gained entry. Upon entering the settlement, he heard the screams of children. "Run! Gaara is approaching," the group of children shouted and fled as swiftly as their small legs could propel them. "Wait," a faint voice emanated from the source they were fleeing, "I merely wish to play." The voice was gentle, although Optimus recognized it well because to his acute auditory receptors. This is unusual, he contemplated, frowning as he observed the commotion at the alley entrance. Typically, children either walk away or disregard the peer they wish to avoid, rather than flee as if pursued by ravenous scraplets. The sparklings were so preoccupied with fleeing that they dropped the ball they had been playing with. It bounced several times before rolling towards Optimus. The Autobot observed the child, noting his slender frame and evident fatigue and sorrow. Ultimately, he found no justification for the children's flight from him, as he appeared unthreatening. Rather, it seemed they were fleeing from his pervasive aura of despondency. Optimus retrieved the ball and approached the boy, who, upon sensing an approaching presence, gazed up at him. "Here you go, little one," Optimus replied, extending the ball towards him. He remained motionless, prompting Optimus to express concern. "What is wrong, little one?" "Why?" he mumbled. His voice was little and gentle, as if he could not fathom that someone had actually addressed him. The boy's heartbeat appeared to corroborate this through his audio sensors and scanner. "Why, what is it, little one?" Optimus said, perplexed. "Does he not wish to engage in play?" He pondered, "Why do you not flee from me?" "Everyone else does," his tone appeared really frantic. "Is my response of such significance?" He appeared devoid of muscle, reminiscent of my own treatment in my previous existence. "I harbor no fear of you, young one, all I perceive is a small boy in need of companionship, and I shall be your friend." Gaara smiled as tears streamed down his face. He leaped into Optimus's arms and wept, overwhelmed with joy at having finally found a friend to play with. "It is all right, little one. I understand the anguish of solitude. It is nearly intolerable, is it not? I am familiar with that sensation, having experienced it in that dark and desolate place. However, there are others now, and soon you will have individuals who genuinely care for you." Gaara lifted his gaze from the man's shirt and observed the man's neon blue eyes, which conveyed nothing but sincere truth, devoid of lies or deceit, yet imbued with kindness. "Come, little one, let us play," Optimus urged, still clutching the ball. Gaara hesitated to take the ball. "I do, but," he replied timidly, his heartbeat quickening. "He desires to play, yet he is apprehensive about disclosing something to me," he stated. "But," he pressed. "No one would engage with me previously," he shuffled his feet. Optimus regarded Gaara. "I will play with you, what would you like to play? I am unfamiliar with any games, he stated. No wonder he is despondent, he lacks the knowledge to enjoy himself, he mused, exhaling in frustration. It is lamentable that no youngling or sparkling should be isolated without companions or activities. If you are uncertain, I shall select the game, Optimus declared, attempting to recall a human game involving a ball that Raphael had mentioned. Considering basketball, soccer, and football, he determined that soccer was the most suitable, given the spherical nature of the ball. He explained the rules of soccer to Gaara and constructed 2 goalposts. It was not long before they were engaged in play and experiencing enjoyment until sunset. Gaara was reluctant to return home, but Optimus persuaded him otherwise, assuring him that he would be there the following day, awaiting his arrival. Previously, while the two were engaged in play, Anbu Hawk was discontent with this mission. Merely observing Gaara to assess his threat level and reporting his activities to the Kazekage was the uncomplicated aspect. However, like other Anbu operatives assigned to monitor the Jinchuriki, he felt a palpable fear. The child was evidently unstable and could erupt at any moment. The entire village was aware to maintain distance from him, and with few visitors beyond merchants, it was simple for the civilians to steer those visitors away from Gaara or at least caution them. No one has cautioned the young man regarding Gaara. He mentally exclaimed, hoping that someone would approach and summon him, so preventing him from compromising his position to evade an irate Jinchuriki. Naturally, he had chosen the one individual to avoid antagonizing. He began to tighten, prepared to intervene if the sand exhibited any movement. What astonished him most was that this enigmatic man was engaging with Gaara, and Gaara was reciprocating the interaction. Absolutely not. Hawk internally exclaimed, how is this individual still alive? Shouldn't the sand have assaulted him as it did with numerous others? He resolved to inform the fourth and awaited the opportunity to report to the Kazekage, observing the actions of Gaara and the enigmatic man. This is enjoyable, isn't it, child? He inquired, bending down to match his height. What is your name? He was unfamiliar with him. That is the reason he did not flee. If he revealed his identity, would he not escape like the others? He closed his eyes, hoping to avoid witnessing his new friend's fearful gaze and subsequent flight. Gaara waited, anticipating the footsteps of the man he had just engaged with, but they never materialized. He cautiously opened his eyes to confirm the man's presence, hoping without hope that. Pleasure to meet you, Gaara. My name is Optimus. You remained. He tilted his head and inquired, do you wish for me to leave? And no, however then I shall remain. No child ought to be abandoned, which is my conviction, and I perceive that you are exceptional, much like myself. His voice exuded such authority that Gaara recognized the discussion had concluded. In any case, I shall see you tomorrow. Let us convene at this very location at dawn. With that, he rose and began to depart. He will see him again. That notion alone elicited a smile as he nodded vigorously and began to sprint home. He could hardly await tomorrow. As Optimus arrived at his residence, he proceeded to a hotel to confirm a reservation under his name and ascended to the balcony. He gazed at the stars, reflecting, with the all-spark lost among the stars, we cannot restore life to our planet. Fate has bestowed its reward, new worlds to call home. We coexist with their inhabitants now, concealing our presence in plain sight, yet observing them in secrecy, waiting, protecting. I have witnessed their generosity, courage, and kindness, and though we are worlds apart, like us, there is more to them than meets the eye. I am Optimus Prime, and I transmit this message to any surviving Autobots seeking refuge among the stars. We are here, we are waiting. For the first time in my life, I genuinely desired to venture outside at dawn. The physical effort was not particularly taxing, as I struggled to sleep initially. However, I needed to inform Yashimaru of my whereabouts, as I did not wish for the one individual who cared for me to harbor animosity towards me, unlike the other villagers. Gaara contemplated. Yashimaru is not yet awake. He hesitated at his caretaker's door, pondering whether it would be permissible to rouse him. With Optimus scheduled to arrive at daylight, he wondered if his absence would prompt Optimus to depart. Affirmative. He would indeed. Proceed to eliminate him before your babysitter awakens and do the task. The ominous voice in the recesses of my mind incessantly intoned, however, if I proceeded in that manner, Optimus would cease to engage with me. Perhaps he could befriend the sand, which did not exhibit hostility towards him, demonstrating that Optimus was a benevolent individual who would not inflict harm. Contemplating this, I knocked on the door. Initially, there were some rustling sounds, but then the door opened to reveal the amiable visage of my caretaker. Lord Gaara, Yashimaru inquired, since this was the first occasion the young child had awakened since he was 4, when Yashimaru elucidated the notion of sleep during nighttime and advised him not to disturb him while resting to provide adequate energy for the following day. What are your requirements? Yashimaru. Gaara began to inquire but hesitated, uncertain. Yes. Yashimaru inquired, intrigued by Gaara's reason for waking him so early in the morning, as dawn was approaching. Did Gaara wish to observe the sunrise together? Do you require my assistance, Gaara-sama? No, but may I go outdoors, please? I assured someone of my presence there at sunrise, Gaara inquired, shifting his feet. Yashimaru was somewhat taken aback. Someone had requested Gaara to meet him in the village at such an early hour. Typically, individuals would either shun or completely evade his presence. This was absurd and piqued his shinobi instincts. He donned a cautious smile. Are you aware of who requested a meeting with you? He inquired. I would also like to meet your friend, and to discern their intentions, although that final bit remained unarticulated. Gaara gazed upward from the ground, his eyes filled with anxious anticipation. His name is Optimus, and he wears a blue helmet. The sand showed no reaction to him. He stated that I am special, just like him. Could someone akin to Gaara be a Jinchuriki? The inquiry pertains to which one, and why the sand did not respond to him. Might he be manipulating the sand similarly to Gaara? It is noteworthy that only members of the Sabuku clan possess abilities closely aligned with Shikaku's powers. Concealing his inner turmoil and concern, he inquired of Gaara when he was to meet this Optimus, to which Gaara responded with a smile of delight. He requested to meet at our initial meeting location. I will ascertain the details today. May I proceed? Elicit large, pleading eyes, Yashimaru exhaled deeply. The sole means of acquiring information was to confront Optimus directly. Yes, you may proceed, he stated, however, I will accompany you. Gaara smiled and dashed toward the front door. Upon exiting, he began to sprint, with Yashimaru in pursuit. The sun was already ascending, necessitating haste to prevent Optimus from departing. Upon arriving at the meeting location, a smile involuntarily graced my face. Optimus awaited me, adorned in his red and white cloak, with golden flames gently billowing in the breeze as he gazed at the horizon, kindness evident in his eyes. Gaara approached him but halted when Optimus turned around. "Ah, Gaara, it is pleasing that you have arrived. Who is your companion?" Optimus inquired, a subtle smile adorning his face. Third-person perspective as Optimus approached them and positioned himself directly in front of the man and Gaara, the man tensed, his hand instinctively moving towards his thigh bag. The atmosphere around him exuded a sense of caution that Optimus interpreted as both protectiveness and perhaps surprise. Ah, a family member, and by his appearance, a warrior, he concluded his evaluation of the man and turned to Gaara. My, I did not anticipate a luminary such as yourself to be awake at this hour," Optimus chuckled. "Nevertheless, it is still early dawn. Come, there is something I wish to show you, which your companion may accompany us as well." Gaara smiled and nodded, glancing at his caretaker Yashimaru, who sighed and acquiesced as they followed Optimus. After a period of walking, Optimus halted to gaze at the village as the sun rose. "Observe everything the light touches, Gaara, your home, your people." Gaara stared at the village in awe, having never been this high before. He was not even permitted on the village walls. He turned back to Optimus, who was about to speak again. "Gaara, yesterday I mentioned that you are special, just like me." He smiled, not looking at Optimus, his hopeful eyes praying that he was correct. "You can consider us a special case, Gaara. Where I come from, my own people feared me and wanted nothing to do with me. I was profoundly alone and lost. However, that changed when my guardian, my mentor, rescued me from my darkest hour. He showed me how to forge friendships and allow others to connect with me. Now, I will teach you the same lessons he imparted to me because I refuse to let you succumb to darkness and despair. You are young, you should relish life as it sparkles. Indeed, you could instruct me on how to cultivate friendships," Gaara expressed with enthusiasm, then glanced at his guardian for approval. Yashimaru, the optimistic mentor, sighed in resignation, recognizing he could not refuse Gaara's imploring gaze. "You may teach him, but I will remain nearby to ensure you are not exploiting or manipulating Gaara. I comprehend, and there is no need for concern. I will never resort to deceit or exploitation," Optimus replied to Yashimaru. Gaara beamed with joy and leaped into the air, hopeful that he would forge friendships and perhaps get his father's acceptance. 3 months have elapsed since Optimus established his reputation in Suna and throughout the elemental nations, gaining renown as a seal master for kunoichi with his anti-rape seal, anti-pregnancy seal, and pregnancy seal, which enables any kunoichi or woman unable to conceive to bear children. His sealing tags also enhance soil fertility, promoting agricultural growth and averting potential disasters. Suna expressed profound gratitude towards Optimus, and the Kazekage recognized the positive impact he had on his youngest son, regretting his previous actions. Optimus assisted the Kazekage in understanding that Gaara was not to blame for his wife's death, as she willingly sacrificed her life for their son's survival. This event caused the Kazekage to weep, as his wife's final wish was for Gaara to lead a joyful life. Subsequently, he embraced his youngest son, imploring him to pardon his previous folly. Gaara, also in tears, reciprocated the embrace, having already forgiven his father. Regarding Gaara's sleep issues, Optimus successfully repaired Gaara's seal. However, this inadvertently released Shikaku in a diminutive chibi tanuki form. Optimus had to capture Shikaku before he could escape the sealing chamber and affix a specialized collar with a calming seal, adorned with the Autobot emblem, to prevent Shikaku's bloodlust and insanity from overwhelming the small tanuki. You may be curious about how Shikaku escaped the seal while Optimus successfully repaired Gaara's seal, granting Shikaku a modicum of freedom and allowing Gaara to retain sufficient chakra for survival. Initially, Shikaku was displeased, however, he soon embraced his newfound liberty and began to follow Optimus closely, perceiving a paternal figure in him. Shikaku believed that Optimus might be the reincarnation of his father, which motivated his unwavering loyalty. Optimus honored his promise to Gaara, enabling him to forge friendships within the village, where he was no longer regarded as a monster but rather as a young boy harboring a formidable entity within him, capable of destruction. Gaara felt gratitude towards his first friend and brother figure for their significant assistance to him and the town, yet, he was acutely aware that all positive experiences are transient, and he feared that when the inevitable moment arrived, Optimus might depart from the hamlet. Optimus' perspective: since the day I encountered Gaara, I have found immense happiness. My troubles have faded, thanks to Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. My time in Suna has not only benefited me but also allowed the inhabitants to recognize that Gaara is merely a boy, a Jinchuriki harboring a formidable demon within him, preventing it from causing harm. Had I not arrived in Suna, I fear the worst might have befallen Gaara. However, my mission is not yet complete, I still need to assist the other Jinchurikis. Consequently, my time in Suna must conclude. I have already informed the Kazekage of my impending departure to continue my mission. Front gates of Suna, I stood before the Kazekage, his 3 children, and the villagers bidding me farewell. I observed Gaara struggling to suppress his tears, while Shikaku was restrained by a leash to prevent him from following me. I knelt to Gaara's level and tousled his hair. Do not worry, Gaara, I will return, I promise. However, you must vow to become strong enough to protect your cherished people and your home, I urged him. Gaara nodded, attempting to wipe away his tears and muster a smile. I promise, Optimus NII, to become strong and protect my precious people and home, no matter what, he declared, determination evident in his eyes, with Shikaku nodding in agreement. That is excellent, I will hold you to that promise. Oh, before I forget, Gaara, I created something for you. Please close your eyes. Gaara complied and shut his eyes as I retrieved a headband engraved with the Autobot emblem and tied it around his forehead. You may open your eyes now. Gaara opened his eyes to find me smiling at him. He raised his hand to touch his forehead and felt the headband, smiling back at me. Congratulations, you are now an honorary Autobot, I declared with a broad smile. Without warning, Gaara embraced me in a tackle hug, tears of joy streaming down his face. I had previously given a headband with the Autobot emblem to the Kazekage, ensuring he could reach me in case of emergencies, as each headband possesses a unique frequency audible only to me when he is in distress. I straightened to my full height and was about to turn when the Kazekage called out to me, tossing me a headband from Suna. You are always welcome to return to our village, you are our village hero, never forget that. I smiled, nodded, and waved goodbye to everyone as I departed from Suna to continue my journey. The Konohagakure village. In the village hidden in the leaves, Minato Namikaze is in his office attempting to complete his paperwork but is unable to do so. He exhales in exasperation as he reclines and massages his temples, contemplating a particular individual. His youngest offspring, Naruto, he gazed at the photograph on his desk, depicting his family with smiles, except for Naruto, who wore a sorrowful expression as he observed them. A melancholic and remorseful look emerged on his face as he recalled the distressing actions and words he and Kushina directed towards Naruto prior to his departure. Minato recalled the day he and Kushina learned of Naruto's disappearance from their eldest daughter, Hikari, and the third Hokage, Hiruzen. Flashback following Hiruzen's presentation of Naruto's journals to Kushina. Kushina had never experienced such intense wrath after perusing Mito's diary and Naruto's diaries. As she reread the contents, her fury escalated, ultimately culminating in an outburst. How dare these two brats harmed her son? Later that day, when Menma and Mito returned home, they were taken aback and apprehensive upon encountering their parents' furious glares, with Kushina holding Mito's diary. When their parents demanded explanations for their years of deceit and their actions towards their younger brother, their response stunned them profoundly. He is incredibly unintelligent. What is the purpose of having a younger brother like him? He is feeble and deplorable. Thus, he deserves to be our target for frustration. Mito said, that rascal deserves it. Just as we have earned our status as clan heir and heiress. We are the heroes of the Leaf Village who rescued them from the Nine Tails. Naruto is simply a nobody and will forever remain one. Menma bellowed as well. Unsurprisingly, the outcome was dire for them. Following their response, Minato and Kushina severely punished their daughter and son, rendering them unable to sit for several days. Subsequently, Minato commanded his ninjas to locate his missing son, while Kushina donned her former ninja attire to participate in the search. They also enlisted members of the Inuzuka clan, who, as before, detected a metallic odor associated with Naruto. The Inuzuka members trembled at the enigmatic scent, asserting that it was not of human origin. This terrified Kushina, as this monster was responsible for taking her kid. She persistently sought her son throughout the day and night, inquiring with local residents about a blonde-haired child accompanied by another, only to receive negative responses. Having reached her limit, she would have continued her search had Minato not intervened and escorted her back to the Leaf Village. A few days post-discharge from the hospital, she hurried home and confined herself in Naruto's room, weeping profusely for her deceased son. There was an instance when she contemplated suicide but was intervened by her friends and family. Minato experienced unparalleled fear upon witnessing his wife's suicide attempt. Even Hikari, Menma, and Mito were terrified at the prospect of losing their mother, despite their culpability in the situation. Jiraiya and Tsunade received the news and promptly returned to the village, beginning to feel remorse for overlooking their youngest godson. Jiraiya assured them that if one of his spies encountered Naruto, they would be informed. Meanwhile, Tsunade attempted to soothe Kushina and dissuade her from contemplating suicide. Minato visited the residences of the clan heads to inquire if their children has any information regarding Naruto. However, he was met solely with hostile glares, particularly from a certain Hyuga girl who vociferously rebuked him and forcefully shut the door in his face. The blonde Kage exhaled deeply and shook his head. Naruto, please forgive me. Namake's estate. Kushina sat on the couch, gazing at a photograph of a smiling Naruto, her eyes devoid of life. 3 months had elapsed since her son absconded from home and was kidnapped. 3 months have elapsed since she forsook him. 3 months had elapsed since the emotions of regret and guilt infiltrated her existence. Naruto endured significant suffering throughout the years, primarily due to her adherence to the opinions of her children, who ultimately alienated him. Consequently, he has been ensnared by an entity that is not human. To her knowledge, he is likely. The mere concept of that terrified Kushina immensely. And things just deteriorated for her. Whenever she slumbered, she consistently dreamed of all her actions and words directed towards her son, including instances where she physically assaulted him to the brink of death. She is a fiend. She is an atrocious mother to her son. A shame to her Uzumaki lineage. In her dream, she encountered Mito Uzumaki, her great-grandmother, who expressed disappointment and guilt regarding her affiliation with the Uzumaki clan, stating that the Uzumaki never forsake their own, yet she had done so. Mito was correct, an Uzumaki never abandons their own, yet she had forsaken Naruto. She gradually raised a finger and traced it over Naruto's cheerful visage. Naruto, please return home, come back to mommy. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Please, mommy is profoundly sorry, Naruto. Just come back and allow me to embrace you. She covered her eyes with her hands as she wept, recalling a dream in which she found herself in an expansive white space, observing two figures conversing with a young boy possessing blonde, spiky hair. She realized it was her son, Naruto, and attempted to run to him, but found herself immobilized, forced to watch as one figure tousled Naruto's hair and extended a hand, leading him away. She called out to him, but her voice dissipated into the wind as they vanished. Conclusion of the flashback, returning to Optimus. Optimus was distant from the concealed sand village, situated near the borders of Wave Country and Fire Country. Although he would have arrived sooner, he paused at a village named Takigakure when he heard a cry for assistance. Upon approaching the source of the distress, he was appalled and enraged to witness villagers assaulting a young girl with green hair and tan skin. Recognizing her as a Jinchuriki, he incapacitated her assailants and offered her the opportunity to lead a normal and fulfilling life if she accompanied him. Without hesitation, she affirmed her agreement. Upon their introduction, Optimus discovered that her name was full and elucidated that he could rectify her seal, thereby granting Komiai her freedom, provided she possessed sufficient chakra to endure the process. Both parties swiftly concurred, leading to an extended duration for Optimus to amend Fu's seal, which differed from Gaara's. Nevertheless, he successfully liberated Komiai and fashioned a new collar adorned with the Autobot emblem, akin to Shikaku's. While traveling together, they observed a blue blur approaching. Optimus instinctively recognized him from his memories as the quickest cybertronian, swifter than the yellow flash of Konohagakure. The blue blur halted before Optimus, creating a cloud of dust. Optimus's perspective, beat blur, is that you? I inquired, hoping I was not the sole Autobot present. Agent Blur, reporting for duty for Optimus Prime, sir, he articulated rapidly. Fu and Komiai struggled to comprehend his words, but I managed to keep pace. It is good to see you, Blur. Are you the only one here, or are other Autobots nearby? I asked, praying to Primus that we were not alone. He nodded vigorously, his head moving swiftly as blue blur oscillated back and forth. A rare smile crept across my face, though concealed by my battle mask. I exhaled in relief, reassured that we were not the only Autobots present. I pondered who else might be here, knowing my team was in another universe. While maintaining vigilance against the Decepticons, I became aware of Fu and Komiai's apprehension regarding Blur. Consequently, I facilitated their introduction. Fu and Komiai, this is Agent Blur, the fastest Cybertronian known on Cybertron. Blur, this is Fu and Komiai, former Jinchuriki of the seven-tailed beetle. Before I could continue, Blur interjected, "Itis necedo mediumus fuanchamai," which only bewildered Fu and Komiai, who struggled to comprehend him. I sighed, wishing Prospector were present to devise a device enabling Blur to communicate more clearly. Thus, I translated, stating, "He's saying, it's nice to meet you, Miss Fu and Komiai." They both formed a O shape with their mouths, poised to inquire why he was speaking so rapidly. I preempted them, explaining, "It's simply his manner of speech. His ability to run at extraordinary speeds also accelerates his verbal delivery. One might consider it a mutation." They nodded, comprehending that this would constitute a bloodline limit for Blur, and we resumed our journey to Wave Country. As we traversed the trees, I observed the sun rising and spotted a village in the distance, situated on an island. Fortunately, there was an incomplete bridge leading to it. We paused momentarily as I contemplated a method to cross the water. Being relatively inexperienced in ninja techniques, I was familiar with tree climbing exercises but not with water walking, given that Suna is a desert with scarce water resources. Suddenly, an idea struck me. Blur could carry Fu on his back while running across the water, and Komiai could fly. As for myself, I had a different plan. "Blur, carry Fu across, and I will meet you both in the village." "Komiai, accompany them," I instructed. All three individuals nodded and departed, leaving me alone. I transformed into my cybertronian form, taking a few steps back and inhaling deeply as I concentrated on shifting into my beast mode. I began to run, channeling all my strength into my hind legs. A slight jump propelled me across the river and onto the bridge. "I believe this is Wave Country. Intriguing," I mused aloud, continuing to walk without reverting to my human form. Approaching a gathering of people, I discerned a stage where a group of thugs restrained a man, accompanied only by a diminutive figure in a suit, wearing a smug expression. "Third-person perspective, Kaiza, I cautioned you, yet you disregarded my warning. Now you shall perish before your family," declared the diminutive figure, gesturing towards three individuals at the forefront, a lady cradling a weeping kid and an elderly man with an impassive demeanor. "Even if you kill me, Gato, another will arise to thwart you," declared Kaiza, addressing the now identified Gato, who merely sneered and gestured to one of his henchmen, who raised a sword above Kaiza's head. However, before the weapon could descend, it was seized by a metallic appendage. "That was rather unwise. Did your caregiver not instruct you to refrain from handling sharp objects?" stated Optimus in his true form. "Who are you supposed to be, a monster?" Gato stammered, quaking in fear at the sight of this entity. "You need not concern yourself with my identity, as your demise is imminent," Optimus stated with a tone of regret, loathing the necessity of inflicting harm upon humans. However, he recognized that this individual would remain unchanged, even if afforded a second opportunity. He swiftly crushed the thug in his grasp and stomped on the other two. Turning to Gato, he observed the diminutive figure trembling and retreating. His escape was short-lived, as Optimus seized his head. "Please, have mercy, I will provide you with anything you desire, money, drugs, women," Gato implored. Optimus, seething with rage, regarded him impassively before crushing his head until several cracks resonated, rendering Gato lifeless. "Are you well?" Optimus inquired of Kaiza, extending his hand as he reverted to his human form. "Yes, thank you, you saved my life, but I must ask, who are you?" Kaiza responded, accepting the proffered hand amidst the crowd's cheers. "My name is Optimus Prime. I was wondering if there is a place where my associates and I could rest for the night, he stated, astonished by the crowd's adulation. You may reside with my family, it is the least I can offer. How are you capable of such transformations? Do you possess a bloodline limit? Inquired Kaiza, embracing his wife and son, with Optimus accompanied by Blur, Fu, and Komiai. I appreciate your generous hospitality, but no, it is not a bloodline limit. I prefer to discuss that matter privately, if you don't mind, replied Optimus, observing the crowd as they expressed gratitude for liberating their nation from Gato. Kaiza nodded as Tsunami, Inari, and Tazuna, names he recognized as part of his family, approached him. Thank you, Optimus, for rescuing us from that tyrant, Tazuna stated, shaking Optimus's hand. Do not concern yourself, I am simply appreciative that my company and I are progressing in this direction and have averted the most adverse outcomes, Optimus stated, dismissing the accolades. Later that evening, Optimus and his companions were at Kaiza's residence, preparing to discuss their and Blur's origins. I am Optimus Prime, and this is Agent Blur. We are autonomous robotic organisms from the planet Cybertron. To simplify, we are sentient entities from another world, Optimus elucidated. That instantly captivated the family's attention, even Fu and Komiai. Another world? Inari inquired, astonished. How is that feasible? Kaiza inquired. Tsunami glanced over to observe her father, Tazuna, in a state of astonishment. Optimus mentally chastises himself, recognizing that earning the humans' trust likely eluded him and Blur. However, he felt compelled to convey the truth, as he had no motive to deceive and possessed limited knowledge of this world, having been reincarnated recently, with his former memories as Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze proving unhelpful. Are you asserting that life exists beyond this world? Kaiza inquired. Indeed, Kaiza, Optimus replied as he elaborated on the devastation wrought by civil war on their home planet, Cybertron, which compelled them to seek refuge and new sources of energon, as well as a strategy to vanquish the Decepticon army. Kaiza and his family were both astonished and honored by the presence of these two war heroes, who had come to safeguard them from the Decepticon menace. They regarded them as paragons of heroism, a sentiment echoed by Fu and Komiai. If I may inquire, Optimus-san, where are you and your companions headed? Tsunami asked, gazing at the man who had rescued her husband. I am uncertain, perhaps the land of water, but we are merely traveling for the time being, remarked Optimus, contemplating their destination. You would be ill-advised to venture there. Ever since the Mizuki's descent into madness and the subsequent slaughter of bloodline users, a civil war has erupted between bloodline users and loyalists, stated Tazuna, eliciting a shocked expression from Optimus before his gaze sharpened. Recalling Megatron's conduct during the war, if this Mizuki exhibits similar traits by indiscriminately killing innocents, he must be stopped at all costs. What do you mean the Mizuki has gone mad? Optimus inquired, aware that Yagura, the Mizuki, was also the Jinchuriki of the Three Tails and had once been a benevolent individual, according to reports. No one knows, one moment he was kind, and the next he was advocating for the extermination of bloodline users. Some suspect he is under a genjutsu, but no one can substantiate that, Tazuna replied, eliciting a dubious expression from Optimus. I must investigate this matter, Optimus contemplated. The following morning, having regained his strength, Optimus was finalizing his tailed beast suppression seal in preparation for any encounters with unstable Jinchuriki. He completed the final adjustments and remarked, "Okay, it's done." Now to proceed to Water Country for answers. As he approached the incomplete bridge, he was taken aback to find the villagers present, along with Blur, Fu, and Komiai. Optimus had previously informed them of the necessity to remain behind due to the potential dangers, which they both comprehended as Tazuna approached him. "You did not believe you could depart without bidding farewell," remarked Tazuna. "This is not a farewell, my friend, but I must depart. I am grateful for your hospitality, yet I must leave to prevent further loss of innocent lives," Optimus stated, receiving a knowing glance from Tazuna. "Rest assured, Optimus, you will always be welcomed here," Tazuna stated, receiving a nod from Optimus before he traversed the water. Upon reaching dry land, Optimus generated 1,000 shadow clones. Assign 100 clones to each of the 5 elements for mastery, 250 to wood style, and the remaining 250 to storm style, commanded Optimus. He inherited wood style and storm style from his grandfather and great-uncle. Author's note: for those curious about how Optimus is aware of his great-grandfather and great-uncle, he conducted research on his lineage and discovered that the Uzumaki clan is a cousin clan to the Senju clan. He also found that he is related to Hashirama Senju and Tobarama Senju during his time in Suna, but I am too fatigued to elaborate further. As the clones commenced their tasks, Optimus retrieved the dinosaur summoning contract discovered by Gaara and presented it to him. Upon unrolling it, Optimus observed that it bore no other signatures. Biting his thumb, he inscribed his name in the designated space, accompanied by his fingerprints, after which he vanished in a cloud of smoke. Cave Mountain. Upon re-emergence, Optimus observed his surroundings in a mountainous area characterized by immense caves. He then perceived a cave ahead, from which emanated a pair of bright red eyes that unleashed an earth-shattering roar. Subsequently, a colossal beast emerged, possessing a large head adorned with sharp, serrated fangs. However, despite its massive size, its arms, which included just 2 clawed digits on each hand, were notably short. Another specimen has a 26-foot wingspan from tip to tip, with wings constructed from a thin, flexible metal. It resembled a reptilian creature, featuring a lengthy tail and 2 heads. Each head was attached to an elongated neck and possessed a long, spear-like beak. Regrettably, I cannot provide a description of the Dinobots, rather visualize them as depicted in Transformers: Age of Extinction. The group saw that the singular characteristic shared by all the creatures was their metallic composition. However, that is purported to be unfeasible. "Slug, what is a human doing in our mountain range?" inquired the individual with stubby arms, expressing irritation, while the 3-horned creature surveyed the surroundings. "I do not know, I believe King Grimlock was aware," he responded, sounding somewhat lacking in intellect. The individual with the hooked toe claws surveyed the surroundings before speaking out. "I contend that the entity before us, though appearing human, is not truly human and possesses the answers we seek, Lord Grimlock. This implies that someone has executed our summoning contract." He directed his gaze toward Optimus. "You there? Human. Were you the one who executed our contract?" Optimus advanced, exhibiting no trepidation toward the beasts. "Indeed, I am the one who executed your contract," he affirmed. The beast observed the young man's bloodied hand, noting the freshness of the blood. Furthermore, a glance into the young man's eyes confirmed his veracity. He smirked before addressing the stout-armed one, "Lord Grimlock, it seems that for the first time, the Dinobots have acquired their own summoner." Grimlock then looked down at the young man and smiled. "Greetings, young Optimus. It seems you are the inaugural individual to execute our summoning contract. Typically, I would conduct an assessment to determine your worthiness, however, given the unprecedented nature of a summoner, I shall make an exception. Permit me to introduce myself, I am Grimlock, the leader of the Dinobots." Upon re-emergence, Optimus was panting after his recent ordeal yet elated to have acquired formidable comrades. He surveyed his surroundings and observed his clones diligently engaged in elemental manipulation. Nodding in acknowledgement, Optimus commenced his physical training. 3 hours later. It's been 3 hours since Optimus signed the Dinobots contract. In that time he was able to get complete control over his elements and now had clones mastering the jutsus. He also increased his speed, strength, and endurance. Optimus's hair also grew long enough to nearly cover his eyes, and it seems to get on his nerves, so he had one of his shadow clones to cut it for him. Optimus never noticed how long his hair has gotten. If he had left his hair like that he would look like Madara Uchiha. All he needed was the Sharingan. Yeah right, Optimus will never stoop that low just to copy and steal other people's work. But then again, Optimus also discovered that he had Sharingan. He believes it has to do with his so-called father's side of the family there's not much about, the Namikaze clan. Optimus has also been practicing his new Sharingan, being able to summon the upper half the Susanoo, but the lower half. He was able to summon Amaterasu and put the flames out with a thought, and he also had that Umbu Shirsue's Koto Amatsukami but couldn't practice it or Tsukimi. Optimus would categorize his abilities as equivalent to a low Kage, yet possessing the potential of a high S rank, as he wields considerable power but lacks experience in this realm. Currently, Optimus awaited a response from his summons dispatch to uncover any points of interest. He observed the arrival of Swoop, the scout of the Dinobots. "Swoop, did you discover anything?" Optimus inquired of the scout Dinobot, who alighted upon his shoulder. Indeed, Optimus, a significant confrontation is occurring between the rebels and loyalists, with Yagura present alongside the 3 turtles, reported Swoop, to which Optimus nodded before dismissing him. It is now imperative to ascertain whether Yagura is ensnared in a genjutsu or has succumbed to madness, stated Optimus, biting his thumb and executing a series of hand seals. "Summoning jutsu!" Optimus exclaimed, conjuring a colossal gray and gold triceratops, adorned with arcs of fire. This was Slag, the Dinobot's second in command. "Slag, let us demonstrate the power of fire to Yagura," Optimus proclaimed from atop Slag's back. "Let us engage," bellowed Slag as he commenced his charge, igniting flames in his trail. Battlefield Meitarumi was experiencing an unfortunate day. It commenced with a contact among Yagura's army informing her that Yagura was departing the Mist Village to inspect a battalion. Perceiving this as an opportune moment to conclude the conflict, she assembled all the rebels to launch an attack. However, it was a ruse. Yagura was present with his entire battalion. Subsequently, the situation deteriorated as Yagura metamorphosed into his tailed beast, decimating every rebel in proximity. Just as the rebels faced imminent defeat, a roar reminiscent of thunder resonated through the forest, followed by the emergence of a colossal gray and gold triceratops charging directly at Yagura. "Fire roar!" exclaimed Slag, unleashing a torrent of flames directed toward Yagura. Optimus perspective, "Thank you, Slag. Attempt to cease the conflict while I attend to Yagura." Optimus said, dismounting Slag and assuming his cybertronian form, firing an energon blast at Yagura to capture his attention, which he accomplished as Yagura redirected his gaze towards him. "Legendary powerful beast, cease this immediately," your judgment is compromised. Those manipulating you seek our annihilation. We must unite, or we shall become their subjugates. Thus, today you either ally with us or oppose me, Optimus declared as he lunged at Gaara, who attempted to strike him with his arms and tails. Optimus ultimately landed on the colossal turtle's back, affixing his tailed beast suppression tag to Gaara, resulting in the three tails freezing before commencing to diminish. Now, let us examine the thoughts within your mind, Optimus stated as he grasped Gaara in his enormous hand while entering Gaara's consciousness. Within Gaara's consciousness upon Optimus's arrival, he discovered himself in a cave containing a lake, where Gaara floated unconscious, his three tails bound. Gazing upward, Optimus observed a Mangekyo Sharingan resembling a pinwheel. So, it is a genjutsu, this should be easily remedied. But first, he contemplated as he approached Gaara to ascertain his condition. Utilizing his scanning ability, Optimus discerned that Gaara's soul and mind were utterly obliterated, rendering him a soulless husk. The individual responsible for the genjutsu had annihilated his mind and soul to manipulate him as a puppet. Sighing, Optimus recognized the necessity of employing his new invention, the sealing transfer technique, to transfer the Biju to another individual, although he had never had the opportunity to test it. With limited time remaining, Optimus executed the hand signs, amassing his chakra to activate the sealing transfer technique for both himself and Gaara. Their bodies emanated a light blue chakra, which enveloped them and the three tails in a luminous blue dome. This dome shattered the Sharingan, liberating the three tails from the genjutsu while simultaneously inducing a state of slumber as the sealing transfer neared completion. Returning from Gaara's consciousness to the tangible world, silence enveloped the scene as onlookers observed the colossal robotic entity, whose nature remained a mystery, gradually revert to human form. Shock ensued upon discovering Gaara prostrate and seemingly lifeless. Suddenly, the stranger emitted a deafening scream, causing everyone to flinch as Optimus collapsed, convulsing in agony. Moments later, the rebels, accompanied by their leader Mei Terumi, materialized beside Optimus. "Why is he screaming?" a rebel member inquired of his leader. His chakra coils were already developed, which has placed a strain on them, resulting in immense pain. "Whoever he is, he has just saved us from Gaara, and from what I observed, he transferred and resealed the three tails into himself," Mei explained, signaling her men to carry the man as she walked alongside them. "Thank you, whoever you are, we are eternally in your debt," Mei expressed, tears of joy and gratitude streaming down her face, fully aware that this man had sacrificed himself to save her and her people.